Hi, and welcome to ADAC Answers, an education podcast for all. I'm your host, Erin Black. ADAC specializes in providing to private school leaders and teachers customized professional development programs to assist their schools with meeting individual student learning needs and increasing overall student achievement. Led and staffed by passionate, committed professionals, ADAC prides itself on delivering to its clients and the students and families whom its clients serve precise solutions to their unique education challenges. ADAC stands for Accountability, Delivery, Access, and Community, 4 words we believe epitomize our work. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and join us in listening to future episodes discussing all things education. Welcome back to another episode of ADAC Answers. Today, we will be talking about advocacy with our guest speakers, Jeff Groves and Kate McConnell. Jeff is our ADAC creative director and brand developer, and Kate is our ADAC vice president for student advocacy and family engagement. Jeff's son and family had the opportunity to work with Kate as an advocate, and they are here today to share their journey. Thank you both for being here with us today. Can you please take a few moments to briefly introduce yourselves?
So as you said, Erin, I'm Vice President, Student Advocacy and Family Engagement at ADAC, which I think is a really long title to basically say I help families and students. I help families who have students who they either suspect have a disability or definitely have been diagnosed with a disability and are having a difficult time navigating the eligibility, the child find timeline. And the child find timeline is what that's referring to is the public school system of going through and getting your child evaluated and found to have a disability. If a child has a disability, they get what's called an IEP written. If they're going to a public school, if it's a private school, it's a service plan. I am in the lucky position of being able to help both public school students and private school students. Everyone knows somebody who has a disability. And unfortunately, it is very difficult for families to navigate the process in getting support for their children.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about your role with ADAC. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your why and what drove you to work specifically in advocacy?
That's such a good question. And I feel like I have 500 different answers. And everything has just led me to where I am now. But I will say, growing up, I had an uncle who had a very severe disability. And likely today, he would have been diagnosed with a severe form of autism. At the time, I knew him as Uncle Kevin, and he could sing happy birthday, but could not get to the dear part. He would call me Bruce. Hi, Bruce was my name. And he would ask me where my car was when I was 8 years old. So this is somebody who had severe disabilities. And my Uncle Jim, who was brothers with him, who I adored, my Uncle Jim. One day we were at his house, and Uncle Kevin was saying to me, I was about 10 years old, where's your car? Where's your car? And I was giving different answers to probably just to be like a kid, but I guess you could call it mean, bullying, whatever. Well, my uncle came over, and I've never seen him angry. And he said, just because he can't respond to you doesn't mean he doesn't have feelings. You can see he's getting upset. And my heart broke in a million pieces because I disappointed my uncle and I did something mean to somebody. But it really put me on this path of looking out for other people. So I would say that's probably where it germinated. And then when I decided to go into education, and some point, the happiest I was when I was either volunteering to teach junior achievement or babysitting for a friend. And so my husband was like, you need to go back to school and become a teacher. So I did that. And my plan was to be a general education teacher. But every time I was in a general ed classroom doing, those observations that you have to do to become a certified teacher, the children with special needs would tend to gravitate toward me. And then I ended up volunteering at this school for children with special needs. And I was there so often that the principal said to me, we'll pay you to be here. And so at that point, I decided, okay, I changed to special education. And then I became a special education teacher in Chicago Public Schools. After 10 years of doing that, I loved it very much so. Worked with a lot of great teachers. And then my daughter started school down the street at the local Catholic school. And I followed her there because they wanted to build up their inclusive education program. And they knew that's what I did. And they knew that I was thinking of leaving. So they tapped me into that. So all these things kind of came together. And when I started at the Catholic school, that's when we really started to hear more about how federal law can support even children with special needs in any school, no matter where they go in the US, which I didn't even realize, even though I was a special education teacher. And so then I got involved in that aspect, started to just learn a lot about the federal law, the state law in Illinois, where I'm based, then helped some families through that advocacy process, had a lot of successes. And then people started to hear about it, mainly my friends. And then so I had a friend in North Carolina reach out, and then a friend in Florida and a friend in Maryland. And so I started to really build up this experience, and I found it very fulfilling because it's like taking a ton of bricks off of families' shoulders when they realize there's someone who can help them through this process to get their child the supports they need to set them up for success.
Thank you for your introduction, Kate. Jeff, would you please take a moment to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background as to what you were experiencing and why you felt it necessary to utilize Kate as an advocate?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for offering us the opportunity to talk about our stories.
Of course.
It's tough. And but it feels really good to talk about it. And I've learned that over the years. So I'm a dad of a 19-year-old son, 19 years old already. So he's an adult, and things change once they turn 18 as well. So here we are, still navigating this crazy process. I met Kate through ADAC, working with her, and we got talking about our personal lives, and we had a lot in common. And she said she can help, and that's how it all began.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Can you talk a little bit more about your experience and what barriers your family encountered before Kate got involved in the process?
Well, it was many, many years working with the public system, trying to get meetings, rescheduled meetings, them trying to come up with ideas, but there were so many limitations. Jack was deteriorating over time. Now he suffers from autism, but specifically he was diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome when he was 5 years old. So the Tourette's syndrome was at the top of his diagnosis. There was very, very little known about that. So the support was not there for him. Then about 8 or 9 years old, he got diagnosed with OCD, and then ODD, and then anxiety, and then ADHD. And so it just went on, and Asperger's, which they don't say anymore. It now falls under the spectrum of autism. Yep. But he was not diagnosed with autism until he was about 12 years old. Wow. So he was not getting the services, even though he was autistic at a very, very young age. Just because he was doing a little bit better in school academically, they thought he could do well, but emotionally it was a mess. So, after that long deterioration between 5 years old and 10 years old, we just got more tests done. We saw more doctors, and the process went on and on and on. The education was not there. He was missing a lot of school. And their solution, they're very limited what they could do. If he was having a bad day, the solution would be, well, he's going to go to the nurse and sit in the nurse's office for 2 hours with a fan on him until he calms down. And then he would come home and let it all out at home. Anyway, this deterioration led us to, he was actually hospitalized 7 different times. Those hospitalizations lasted between an overnight to up to 9 days in the ER because there were no beds available at any hospitals. He spent time at a few different programs before we finally said, he needs a residential school here. This is not working. The process of getting into a residential school is absolutely crazy.
Yes.
So, that's when we had Kate hop on. So Jack continued to go through this tough day at school, public school, coming home, dysregulated. Of course, we tried every medicine in the world, and that some kids just don't do well on medicine, others do. And we understand that. But the medicine was not working. It was basically a roller coaster ride for him. I think we went through, a dozen medicines. And he's currently still on medicine now, unfortunately. But so during his high school years, he actually spent 1 year in high school, which was his freshman year, and could not handle that freshman year. So we immediately, needed help. So now Massachusetts is very interesting because we thought that things would be provided to us. We thought that people would reach out to us as parents. We thought that there would be, some services that we didn't actually have to seek. And unfortunately, every single step of the process, the parent has to find out how to do that, how to actually navigate the process. We didn't know that there was a shortage of beds. We did not know that some schools don't take certain kids. We did not know that about the services provided by the state. We didn't know a lot of this. So right when Kate came on board, we had our first meeting with our out-of-district placement director, who is really in charge. Now, the person in charge is that placement director. And there's obviously a budget.
Yes.
And when a public school student costs, I think, around $16,000 in the state of Mass, and a residential school costs over $200,000, they're not just going to hand that money out. So you almost have to prove to them.
Yeah.
They're not going to they no longer look at your child. They look at how much can we get away with here? How much can we do public? How long can we keep him in here before we're going to get a lawyer in our face? And it's so unfortunate because they know we don't know any of this. There's so many things that I didn't know, and I still don't know. But that first email that I attached, that I CC'd Kate on, they noticed, and we got an immediate response. The meeting was scheduled, within a week. Just everything picked up, because I don't know why, because they knew we went out and found help. I don't know. It shouldn't take that, but it does. Even the attitudes and just everything changed. We had a few meetings in a row and they went quicker. The public department, everyone on that meeting had their ducks in a row and everything lined up. And so immediately we got offered 3 different residential schools. And out of those, unfortunately, 2 of them weren't the proper places for our son. And we were kind of surprised that it was, there's limited schools, but there's also limited space within those schools. And then there's limited staff at those schools. And then depending on what they offer, they can't take every kid. Finally, we found the school that was right for Jack, and he's there now, and he's been there for 4 months now. And it's going great. And I do want to say one thing, though. He was at another residential school before this, and that was before Kate, and that was before asking the right questions, interviewing the right people, demanding the right paperwork, demanding the right everything, having them mail you documents of we didn't know all that. So we sent him to another school before this, and it was the wrong school. And it was basically 2 years of process of getting into that school, finding out it's not the right school, then getting him out of that school, then having to go through the whole process again, all the medicine changes, 2 hospitalizations while at this school. It ended badly. It stressed him out because he missed another 2 years of high school.
Right.
So here we are, finally in a good spot. Finally, the district understands that we're serious.
Yeah.
After what, 15 years? Come on.
Right.
So,
Well, and if I could just add, so one of the things that occurred in Jack's case is they didn't exit Jack out of the program. The school didn't exit Jack out of the program. If the school had exited Jack out of the program, then they would have been legally required to exit him out to a different residential school. But what they did, and what we unfortunately have seen in other places, is they just basically kept going at the parents with one complaint after another. Was adding to the pressure, and finally, and they made it very clear to the parents that we're probably going to kick him out, but in a way that was like, this is going to be detrimental to his education. So they did what many parents want to do and protect their child from yet another trauma. So they pulled him out. So then that made it seem like legally the parents have taken him out. They're done. The district is done. They've wiped their hands. They did everything. The parents didn't agree to it. And that's where I think an advocate can really help, because as a parent, you want to do everything to protect your child, and it's very emotional. And so when an advocate can come in and not bring the emotion in and look at the particular law, and to be able to say, it's clear from A, B, and C, you are going to exit this child out without a backup plan, then that got the attention of the district, that somebody's looking. That also frustrates me on many levels, because like Jeff was saying, that, the parents have to be proactive, but actually the law puts it on the district, that the district is supposed to be proactive. And however, it's really parents that have to be, the parents who are getting what they need. They have to be proactive. They have to be lucky enough to know they need to be proactive. And really, to get anywhere, they really need to have that good information. So the system is set up, unfortunately, yet another system in the US that's set up to marginalize our marginalized communities even more. And so that's one reason why I just love being a part of ADAC. What we've been doing is contracting with different districts, different coalitions, different organizations that just want to lift up children with disabilities. And then we have, let's say, like with one contract, then I will represent 10 families. And the organization and I will pick those 10 families. And we try to pick the families who could not afford a lawyer, who maybe are living in those marginalized communities and have been going through the system, assuming that everything was being done that should have been done, and that assumption was incorrect. So this is a new way that advocacy is being provided for children with disabilities. And I think it's going to make a really positive difference in not only the students' lives, but in the families' lives, and even in the public school districts' lives who are doing these evaluations. Because the system is set up in a wonky way where you have educators who got into the system because they want to help children, now having to interpret the law. So an advocate even helps the public school district with moving forward. And there have been so many times when I have worked in a public school district, and after everything is done, I get an off the record email or off the record phone call thanking me because they learned new things that they were supposed to be doing that they just simply did not know. One piece that I think sometimes gets lost and gets confused at the eligibility table with the difference between private school and public school, what you have to show, and why public schools require such a process of interventions and often misinterpret the terminology that the disability needs to be affecting their access to the academic day. Academic day is actually the whole school day. But the reason why that is happening in the public schools to the degree it is for a very good reason. And that is because a little bit over 20 years ago, we had an over-identification of children with disabilities. But now the pendulum has swung the other way, and we now have an under-identification of children and an underutilization of services.
Mhm.
And now with COVID being basically a fulcrum to having these disabilities that maybe kids were keeping in check and making accommodations internally, that they've just been completely exhausted from all that they've had to do. Now we're seeing an increase of diagnoses, and we're seeing a shortage of service providers, a shortage of teachers. So we are at a crisis point, in my opinion, in education. And so the other thing that we do in advocacy is try to also correct how these education dollars are being accessed to maximize the funding to support children with disabilities, no matter where they go, public school, private school, homeschool.
So Jeff, how has this experience with working with Kate changed Jack's educational experience and your family's experience at home?
Well, immediately, like I said before, immediately he got into a school that is appropriate for him. We were really excited about, well, he's 19, so it was going to be a sort of a hybrid program they were going to put him in, where it would be almost the adult transition program, which they offer.
Mm-hmm.
So they offer two programs there. One is, for the younger kids, and one is for adult transition, which is usually 18 to 22. Since Jack was so far behind, he really didn't fit into the ATP program yet. Mm-hmm. They still wanted him to finish up some classes, and we want him to get his high school diploma. So that's what he's doing, and that they immediately got him into that and set him up with a plan for the next year or two. First of all, she got us into that school. That's bottom line. That's great. But also, while he's been there, he's only been there 4 months now, and they've already brought in new coping mechanisms that he can use on his own, independent transitioning skills, independent skills to just, learn how to be bored. Okay. Don't always seek someone for help. So a lot of behavior reversal therapy, but then also they're not big into meds, which we love. They try to attack the really go at the issues on an organic level, I guess is the best way I can put it, which is through good communication, educating the family, great family therapy that they're offering us,
that's incredible.
Which we were like, hello, you need that. And then, and a slight medicine change. They weren't happy with what he came over there on. And the best part about this new school is they don't use PRNs. PRNs is really, it's a heavy medicine for sedating kids that are really at their worst. And the old school was giving Jack 3 per day at times, just to get him to sleep, and he would come off of those things and just be like a drug addict waking up the next morning.
Yeah.
And those are not, I'm not going to trash the old school, but it was just a very young staff. That was their default. Anyway, and that's not normal for most schools, but this new school is lowering the medicine, but also changing it slightly, times of day that he takes it. Also putting him into extracurricular, getting him he was on the basketball team, and
how fun.
It's really, he loves, but he's 6'4".
So perfect.
He's a big boy. He loves it, but it also bonds him with the kids that are there. Those kids they all have their own issues, and a lot of them don't understand Jack. They don't understand Tourette syndrome, which is unique. So it's been great. And there's a farm there. It's just nice. It's a campus that he needs space. He needs room to breathe. So yeah, it's been great.
Thank you, Jeff. Kate, do you have anything that you would like to add?
When you're put on medication, there is a process, and some medications work great, and that's what's needed. Other times it's not what's needed. But in addition to the medication that, that experience that Jeff and Anna, Jack's mom, were navigating, the school was recommending electric shock therapy, which is ECT. And they were implementing it, and they wanted to increase it. And Jeff and Anna were pushing against that. And it was, which was surprising to me, that this is something that was being used as a way to really manage behaviors. And one of the behaviors that they were quote unquote managing were Jack's verbal outbursts, but those are part of his disability. And electric shock therapy is not going to help with that. And that is an extreme intervention. And it was very disturbing to me how many emails that had gone back and forth between the school and the family saying, we don't want this for our child. So I can't imagine being a parent and being in that situation, feeling like I've put my child in this school that I think is going to be the best, and they are implementing an intervention that is so severe and we're not comfortable with him getting. And then that was being used to push them out. So I think, each situation is so different. And of course, when I read those emails, that's when I had this inner mama bear that just starts raging for the families. Jack's not my son. So I can't even imagine what Jeff and Anna were going through. So with that experience, and with what was going on at that school, and I certainly hope that that is not what is commonly happening, but there was definitely a lack of understanding of how Tourette syndrome manifests in a person. And there was a definite, I felt possibly a fear factor on the undertrained staff. Don't feel like the staff in this situation had the intense training that's needed to intervene for a child who does have Tourette's. Because as you probably know, Tourette's is often tied with a type of anxiety. And when you're feeling anxious and then your Tourette's comes out, and with Jack, it was mainly verbal, it comes out and it scares the person. You as the teacher, as the educator, you have to calm yourself. You have to get in a position so that the child knows, or in this case, the young adult knows that you're not blaming them. You're a safe space for them. He was experiencing the exact opposite, making his behaviors worse. And then they're recommending more intense interventions like ECT. So for Jack's case, we were able to really show the evidence that this school was pushing Jack out. This wasn't a case where the parents were like, we're pulling him out because it's too long a drive to visit him or something. This was definitely a case where they were, and it seemed intentional to me. Maybe it wasn't, but it felt intentional that they were putting the pressure on, saying to Jeff and Anna, he's behaving this way. What are you going to do about it? As opposed to, he's doing this. And so this is what we're trying. Let's talk about it together, because it has to be a collaboration. It has to be a collaboration.
Yeah, it's a partnership, and we should be using research-based interventions, and we should be partnering with parents, and they are the primary educator of their child, and they know their child. So to do something against their understanding of what is best for their child is very infuriating.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing about that too. ECT was recommended to us, and we started it with good intentions, with good hopes. But it caused memory loss. He would go under anesthesia every single Monday morning, and he would lose at least a day or two of school because he would be in bed after. They were running out of veins because they couldn't put any more in. He probably had over 50 or 60 ECT treatments individually over a year, at the same time getting PRNs. Okay. Yeah. So when we brought him home from that school, the risk was, oh no, we're going to stop PRNs and ECT at the same time. We were nervous.
Right.
And guess what? He came home for the whole summer, and he had a good summer. He did not have one single PRN, and he did not have one single ECT treatment, and he was better.
And had a part-time job.
And had a part-time job at Shaw's. Okay, now, and then a few months later, we got Kate on board, got talking to the school again, And quickly, instead of him sitting at home doing nothing, losing his mind, we got him into a school as quick as we could. So, and he's still not doing ECT, not taking PRNs. He's on a lighter medicine. He's he just wants to go to community college. So it's like now we can't slow him down.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love to hear that.
But honestly, it can go from the very bottom where you just feel no hope to where we are very quickly. And I think a lot of people get down about the whole system because it's crazy to try to do it yourself. But once you're there, you're thinking, oh my gosh, why didn't we just do this earlier? Well, we didn't do it because we didn't know. And there's so many families that don't know. They're not going to know because they're stuck in a rut.
Well, and I do want to say, ECT treatment, I'm not a doctor, but I do know that it is a valuable treatment for some students, but it wasn't working for Jack.
Right.
And they were just, the solution over and over again was more ECT, more PRN. So, and it is amazing with the right interventions, how far Jack has come. And I have to say, I was very lucky to be able to meet him one day on a Zoom and he thanked me. And that was just like, that's just the best. I love to hear that he wants to go to community college. That's amazing. And I think he should one day when it's right, when it's the right time. But back to your question of like how I start out. So each case is different, just like each child is different. Typically what happens is someone reaches out and says, do you think you can help this family? I'm always like, yes. I'm not going to say no. Yes, I will do everything I can to help the family. Now, I have been in a situation where, maybe somebody wanted an advocate because there were people trying to get 504s and accommodations for kids to give them a leg up as opposed to leveling the playing field. Fortunately, I've only had one or two issues with that, where once I've interviewed with the parents or, asked to see the documentation, I could see we were in that kind of situation. And so then I was like, I think then I will pass them on. In addition, if we're in a situation where it looks like this is something that really needs to be legally pursued, where maybe a lawsuit is needed, then I will pass them off to a special education lawyer. Not that I'm passing them off. I will still be with them. I will still work with them. But if I ever get to a point where it's, this is something beyond what I can help out with because I don't have the right training, etc., it'll go. But most of the time what happens is I'm asked, can you help? Then I usually have an interview with the parents to find out, when did first of all, who's your child? Why did you name your child this name? What, when did you first notice an issue? When's the first time a school brought something up? To really understand the journey that they've been on, and then to figure out the next steps to make the next part as short a journey as possible.
Thank you, Kate. Are there any closing comments or thoughts that you guys would like to share with us before we end?
I would just tell parents that you have to question everything. You have to question everything and question it a second time and get a second opinion. It's possible they could get the wrong diagnosis. It's possible you could go to the wrong doctor or the wrong school. Just make sure you do research and ask questions. And I would not navigate this without a third party, without an advocate. We did it for many years and paid the price. We worked so hard. We did everything right. We thought we did everything right just by caring. Caring is not enough. I mean, you've got to push. And honestly, a lot of parents can't do that. We're not the pushy type. Some parents will get on the phone and argue, and they know the law. They'll look up everything. A lot of parents are quiet and they just aren't pushy. So they're the ones left behind. It's just, it's not right. We should all be treated equally. Every kid should be looked at on an individual basis and not thrown into this giant system.
Thank you both so much for being here today. Jeff, thank you for your vulnerability and willingness to share your story. And Kate, thank you so much for your expertise. I hope that you guys will keep us updated with all of Jack's future successes. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to share your story and your journey with us.
Thank you so much. I definitely will. Appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. To everyone at home, if you have any follow-up questions you would like to see addressed in a future episode, or if you want to share your thoughts on today's topic, then please submit them to us on social media using the hashtag ADAC Answers. That's right, ADAC, and the word answers to let us know. If you would like to hear future ADAC Answers episodes, then please follow, like, and subscribe. And if you're interested in finding out more about our company and the services we offer, please visit us on our website at www.theadac.com. That is THEADAC.com. Thank you so much for listening to our episode today, and we look forward to you tuning in to our next episode. Again, thank you to all of our listeners from the ADAC team. We'll see you next time.